People generally think of Hitler at the Eagle's Nest, Eva Braun's home movies, or they think of him perhaps in the bunker in Berlin.
The Second World War left us a string of unresolved mysteries after the Berlin Wall finally fell. From the Führerbunker, where Hitler met his end, to hidden sites in Argentina used by fleeing Nazi officers, these underground relics remain steeped in mystery and dark history.
This is his actual bunker, and it really looks like kind of an Aztec pyramid or some Egyptian structure from ancient times.
We've set out to uncover the most disturbing discoveries hidden within. Here are the 15 creepiest things ever found in Nazi bunkers. Number 15. A decaying SS uniform. After the fall of Nazi Germany, the world was left with scars, abandoned bunkers, sealed tunnels, and hidden compounds that the victors never fully explored. Decades passed, and then people started going back in. What they found buried deep beneath the surface defied explanation. On the island of Jersey, a forgotten network of Nazi tunnels winds beneath the earth, a haunting reminder of Germany's desperate final years. Dug into solid rock by forced laborers, these tunnels were designed as part of a covert military hospital project. The goal? To protect wounded soldiers from Allied air raids. But these cold stone corridors were never just about survival. They were part of something more secretive and far more disturbing. Walk through these dark hallways today, and you'll find them filled with chilling relics. Rusted hospital beds, splintered stretchers, surgical tools left exactly where they were dropped. The silence inside is suffocating, broken only by the sound of your own breath or the echo of footsteps behind you that shouldn't be there. And then there's the chair. One room, untouched by time, revealed something no one could explain. A single metal chair sat facing a cracked wall mirror. Draped over it, a decaying black SS uniform, its fabric eaten away by age, its insignia still visible under a thin layer of dust. No one knows who placed it there or why. Some believe it was ceremonial, others suggest something more ritualistic. But the positioning, facing a mirror alone in a sealed room, raises unsettling questions about what took place in these tunnels. Some chambers remain half-built, abruptly abandoned as the war neared its end. Faded German inscriptions still cling to the walls. Filing cabinets, left open, reveal documents blurred by moisture and mold. There are signs that some rooms were used for storage, some for treatment, and some for confinement. But not all stories here were left in the open. Years after the tunnels were rediscovered, a plastic container surfaced. Inside were old reels of film, not from Jersey, but hidden here deliberately. On them, puppet shows, soldiers fishing, children's pottery workshops, German army drills, small, mundane slices of life, tucked into the shadows of a Nazi stronghold. Number 14. Nazi film reels show unknown experiments hidden for decades. Unearthed from sealed bunkers decades after the fall of the Third Reich, they show something far more disturbing than battlefield footage. These reels capture what appear to be unknown medical experiments, procedures never officially documented, carried out in underground chambers far from the public eye. Some of the footage shows men and women strapped to tables in dimly lit rooms. Strange instruments surround them, needles, restraints, and machines whose purpose remains unclear. In one clip, a figure in a lab coat gestures toward a high-pressure chamber, eerily similar to devices later exposed in the 1947 Nuremberg medical case. During that trial, U.S. prosecutors revealed how Nazi doctors used human beings as test subjects, injecting poisons, forcing sterilizations, grafting skin, and simulating extreme altitudes. The experiments weren't just cruel, they were methodical. These very same atrocities were captured in Soviet military footage as well. In January 1945, Soviet forces liberated Auschwitz and recorded children, thin, scarred, silent, who had survived procedures that defy modern comprehension. Victims of Nazi experimentation, some only 6 or 7 years old, are seen being examined by Soviet doctors. They couldn't speak about what happened. Their bodies told the story. Among the many unsettling details in the recovered reels are close-up shots of occult symbols on the walls, symbols that do not belong in any medical facility. Paired with reports from explorers who entered long-forgotten bunkers, we now know that many of these underground sites were sealed since 1945, untouched for over 70 years. Inside, researchers have found experimental chambers intact, tables with restraints, old journals in German script, and photographs depicting procedures not found in any known Nazi archive. Some discoveries suggest ties to Operation Paperclip, the controversial post-war mission that quietly absorbed Nazi scientists into Allied research programs. 16 doctors were convicted in the Nuremberg medical trials. 7 were sentenced to death. But some of the names seen scribbled in the margins of these recovered films were never brought to court, never even identified. Number 13. The secret blueprints of Nazi skies. After the collapse of the Third Reich, bunkers once crawling with military personnel were left to rot beneath layers of time and secrecy. But decades later, when explorers pried open rusted doors and sifted through the rubble, they uncovered something extraordinary and chilling. Hidden among crumbling walls and dust-covered crates were blueprints for aircraft that defied logic, designs so unusual they bordered on the impossible. These weren't just ordinary warplanes. These were experimental models, many never brought to life, intended to push the boundaries of aviation and strike fear from above. One of the most infamous was the Horton Ho 229, a jet-powered flying wing that looked like it belonged in another era. Sleek, silent, and decades ahead of its time, it was rumored to have stealth capabilities before the world even knew what that meant. But the mystery doesn't stop with German designs. In dusty folders tucked deep inside these bunkers, researchers also found references to bizarre Allied experiments, like Britain's Hafner Rota-Buggy, a flying jeep, or America's Vought V173, ominously nicknamed the Flying Pancake. This aircraft, with its disc-like shape and enormous 16-foot wooden propellers, sat at an upward tilt of 22 degrees, an odd sight on any runway. Designed by Charles Zimmerman under the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, this bizarre creation was one of many desperate attempts to reimagine flight during wartime. Some blueprints appear incomplete, missing critical parts, as if someone tried to erase their trail. Others feature annotations in a mixture of German and arcane symbols, raising questions about occult connections, whispered to have existed in the shadowy corners of the Nazi regime's scientific research. Each document tells a silent story of ambition, desperation, and obsession. These weren't just blueprints. They were fragments of a forgotten vision, a dark dream of domination through unthinkable technology. Number 12. The Nazi Escape Map. After Nazi Germany crumbled, much of its darkness didn't vanish. It scattered. Decades later, in the depths of abandoned bunkers across Argentina, explorers uncovered something chilling. Hand-drawn maps marked in red. These weren't ordinary routes. They appeared to trace escape paths, corridors through which Nazis fled Europe after the war. And the markings weren't random. They aligned disturbingly well with the infamous rat lines. These covert escape networks helped SS officers and other Nazi officials vanish into South America, far from Allied trials. 2 primary routes have been identified. The first, known as the Iberian route, led from Germany to Spain and then to Argentina. The second, the Vatican route, ran through Germany to Rome, then Genoa, before disappearing into the vast lands of South America. Behind these networks were shadowy organizations like Odessa, formed by former SS members and, allegedly, certain members of the Catholic Church. But one map stood out. Estimated to have been created in the late 1930s or early 1940s, it showed South America divided and renamed, with red lines threading through nations. A German inscription read, "Air Transport Network of the United States of South America Main Lines." Strangely, experts believe this map might not be German at all, but a British forgery, crafted to alarm American intelligence and highlight the threat of Nazi global ambitions. Regardless of its origin, the map was treated seriously. It circulated among Allied forces and played a role in shaping wartime policy. Yet its presence, decades later, hidden in a Nazi bunker thousands of miles from Europe, raises questions that remain unanswered. Number 11. The Forgotten Bar and Project Nachtlicht. Something that lies behind thick concrete walls is far from forgotten. In Dortmund, Western Germany, a recent discovery has raised disturbing questions. Just 5 feet beneath a modern district, archaeologists uncovered a World War II air raid shelter. Built between 1940 and 1941, this bunker was designed to hold up to 390 people during Allied bombings. It was part of Dortmund's massive Tiefstollenanlage, an underground civil defense system stretching nearly 3 miles, buried 65 feet deep. But unlike the others, this shallow bunker held something unexpected: a fully intact, well-preserved bar. With counters and seating still in place, the eerie find puzzled researchers. Officials confirmed the space was never intended for leisure. So, who turned it into a secret bar, and why? That's when things took a darker turn. Hidden within the bunker were metal containers stamped with the label Project Nachtlicht, translated as Night Light. The name alone stirred unease. No records exist explaining the project. Some believe it may have involved early night vision or light manipulation tech. Others suspect something more unsettling, perhaps experimentation tied to the occult or suppressed wartime research. The true purpose of the bar and Project Nachtlicht remains a mystery. But discoveries like this are not isolated. Across Europe, other bunkers have revealed sealed rooms, ritual markings, and strange devices with no known origin. Number 10. Mannequins in Nazi bunkers. When modern-day explorers, restoration crews, and archaeologists began venturing into these cold, decaying chambers, they expected rusted weapons and crumbling walls. Instead, they found something deeply unsettling. Mannequins, lifelike, frozen in time, and surrounded by silence. In the German-occupied island of Jersey, restoration teams working inside Nazi bunkers stumbled upon several realistic mannequins, fully outfitted in World War II-era uniforms. At first, they believed these were part of a past museum display, but records revealed no such installations. Some mannequins were discovered in unnatural poses, kneeling in dark corners, staring at walls, or placed behind rusted artillery, as if waiting for orders that never came. Their presence raised disturbing questions. Who placed them here, and why were they left behind? Further inspection showed that some of the figures had deteriorated uniforms and glassy, dust-covered eyes. In one sealed room, unopened for nearly 70 years, a single mannequin stood near a table of Nazi documents, surrounded by the quiet hum of stale air, untouched since the war ended. While similar discoveries have occurred in British command centers, like London's cabinet war rooms, it was the unexpected presence of these mannequins deep within untouched Nazi bunkers that unsettled historians the most. They weren't just props. They felt like echoes of something deliberately staged, then forgotten. Number 9. Hitler's Forgotten Labyrinth. After the collapse of Nazi Germany, Much of its vast military infrastructure was buried, both literally and in the pages of history. But deep within the forested mountains of Poland, a chilling remnant still exists. It's not listed on any tourist map. There are no signs pointing the way. And the government? They'd rather you never knew it was there. Tucked behind moss-covered trees and concealed by overgrown paths is a thick steel door, cold to the touch, even during the peak of summer. Moisture beads on its surface. From the frame's edges, a strange chill leaks out, unnaturally cold, almost as if something on the other side is trying to keep you out, or keep something in. Behind that door lies one of the most unsettling remnants of the Third Reich, an unfinished subterranean structure believed to be part of Project Riese, a secret Nazi construction effort aimed at building vast underground complexes. These tunnels were never completed. They were abandoned in haste, left to rot in darkness for more than 70 years. But what truly unsettles researchers and explorers isn't just the architecture, it's what's found inside. Some chambers contain machinery no one can fully identify. Others bear strange markings, occult symbols scorched into the concrete walls. One room is lined with hooks and rusted restraints, leading some to believe these weren't just factories or shelters, they may have been testing sites, or worse. Each corridor tells part of a story, one that was never meant to be uncovered. And yet, explorers keep returning. Why? Because deep within these forgotten tunnels lie traces of a secret operation, one that may have been far more sinister than anything recorded in the official history books. Number 8. Inside the Forbidden Walls. When explorers and archaeologists began to unlock these hidden spaces, they uncovered things no one could explain. Inside the crumbling walls were strange discoveries. Swastika-shaped airstrips seen only from the sky, experimental chambers, and rooms still sealed shut since the war. Even more disturbing were the occult symbols carved into walls and floors, evidence of rituals and ideologies far darker than official history admits. Not far from Berlin, the former Soviet headquarters in Wunsdorf, once known as the Forbidden City, still stands. It was the largest Soviet base outside Russia, housing 75,000 people at its peak. Schools, cinemas, even barbershops operated behind its restricted gates. Today, time has frozen there. Faded murals of Moscow, empty corridors, and a haunting silence linger over every hallway. Jürgen Naumann, the last caretaker, holds dozens of rusted keys, each unlocking a piece of forgotten history. He remembers when a former Russian commander returned, climbed the same stage she once commanded from, and silently wept. Some things, Naumann says, never really leave you. Number 7. Cryptic Nazi documents. Long buried beneath Argentina's Supreme Court, a dark piece of history has resurfaced. Hidden in plain sight for over 8 decades, a mysterious collection of Nazi documents has been unearthed, not during a raid or investigation, but by chance. While workers prepared to relocate the court's archives, they stumbled upon dusty wooden crates marked as champagne boxes. Inside, something far more sinister. Tucked away in these crates were 83 diplomatic pouches, shipped from Tokyo in 1941, aboard the Nana Maru steamship. Labeled merely as personal effects by the German embassy, the shipment raised suspicions at the time. When 5 pouches were opened at random, customs officials found a chilling mix of Nazi propaganda, photos, postcards, and swastika-stamped booklets. Fearing the cargo could threaten Argentina's then-neutral position in World War II, a judge ordered the entire cache to be seized. But somehow, instead of being acted upon, the crates were shelved and forgotten until now. Argentina's Supreme Court has since moved the documents to a secure location and called in the Buenos Aires Holocaust Museum to help inventory the contents. Early reviews reveal that the papers were intended to spread Hitler's ideology throughout South America. Experts hope the materials will uncover new clues about Nazi financial networks and international allies that extended far beyond Europe's borders. Number 6. Giant concrete domes. Hidden in the hills of northern France, an immense concrete dome looms over a forgotten Nazi stronghold, Lacupole. Dug into an abandoned chalk quarry, this haunting site was meant to be the epicenter of terror. A fully operational V-2 rocket launch facility designed to unleash destruction on London and southern England. Constructed with chilling precision, the structure contained a sprawling maze of underground tunnels, storage bays, fuel depots, and launch prep zones. It was engineered to fire dozens of V-2 missiles each day, striking with speed and devastation. The dome itself, an architectural monster, shielded the entire operation from Allied air raids. But those same Allied forces, through the relentless bombing campaign known as Operation Crossbow, managed to cripple construction before the rockets could be launched. Though the facility was nearly complete, it never fired a single missile. When Allied troops seized the area in September 1944, Churchill ordered parts of the complex destroyed to prevent any future use. The rest was simply abandoned, swallowed by time. For decades, Lacupole sat untouched, its dark passageways sealed, its secrets buried in silence. It wasn't until the mid-1990s that restoration efforts began. By 1997, it had been reborn as a museum. Yet many areas remain closed, their contents unknown. Inside, artifacts from the Nazi occupation and the V-weapons program are displayed beneath the same dome that once threatened to cast a deadly shadow over Europe. But visitors often report a lingering sense of unease, fueled not just by what's shown, but by what's still hidden. Number 5. Rusted safe. Decades later, explorers stumbled upon sealed bunkers, forgotten by time, untouched for over 70 years. Inside, eerie silence gave way to cold steel doors, trapdoors, and chambers that hinted at something far darker than wartime logistics. In one bunker, a rusted safe stood like a frozen echo of the past. It might have once held wartime orders, classified maps, or perhaps personal records never meant to see daylight. But that wasn't all. Dozens of safes and sealed vaults lay scattered throughout the underground complex, some welded shut, others partially buried beneath layers of decay. Who built all this? And more chillingly, why did no one ever speak about it? Photographer Robert Conrad dared to dig deeper. His curiosity wasn't satisfied with the eerie photos alone. Through dusty archives and long-forgotten records, he uncovered an unsettling truth. People had questioned the sudden construction of these sites, but the press had gone silent. Local newspapers from that era refused to call them bunkers, disguising them as part of a residential expansion. It was taboo, Conrad explained. You couldn't mention Nazi bunkers. Officially, they were just building homes. But we all knew something was off. That silence allowed darkness to grow undisturbed. Hidden corridors, strange symbols, and unexplained chambers remained buried until now. Number 4. Concrete slab with carved SS runes. A strange discovery was made inside an abandoned Nazi bunker. A thick concrete slab carved with SS runes. At first glance, it looked like part of the structure. But the presence of these ancient-looking symbols suggested something far more unsettling. The runes weren't decorative. They belonged to the SS, symbols repurposed from old Germanic alphabets, and charged with dark ideological meaning. These twin lightning bolt runes became the very face of the SS, but their use extended beyond uniforms and flags. They held a deeper purpose tied to mysticism, power, and a warped belief in bloodlines and destiny. The location of this find, a sealed, forgotten bunker, raised even more questions. Why were such carvings hidden underground? And why were they placed in an area no one was meant to revisit? Some researchers believe these markings were more than just symbols. They may have been part of ritual spaces, psychological control, or even attempts at supernatural empowerment. The SS leadership, particularly figures like Heinrich Himmler, were fascinated by the occult. Discoveries like these suggest that certain bunkers weren't just command posts. They were temples of ideology, maybe even sites of dark ceremony. The concrete slab remains a silent artifact of a regime that blurred the line between war and myth. It forces us to consider how deeply these twisted beliefs were embedded, not just in action, but in stone. Number 3. Room filled with gas masks. Many of the structures built before and during World War II were later claimed by various armies and used throughout the Cold War, only to be abandoned again after 1991. Decades of silence followed until urban explorers began returning to these long-forgotten sites. What they found was chilling. One such location revealed a bunker that still held original wartime materials, an incredibly rare discovery. Most of these sites were either looted, vandalized, or cleared out long ago. But this one still had rooms stacked with gas masks, many of them rusted by time and moisture, but otherwise eerily intact. Their storage cases and instruction manuals remained, too, offering clues to their origins. The labels were written in French and Dutch, identifying the masks as Belgian in origin. Further investigation showed they were L702 gas masks, produced by the Société Belge de l'Azote et des Produits Chimiques du Marly, a chemical company based in Liège. According to the Gas Mask and Respirator Wiki, these masks were manufactured between 1938 and 1940, just before the outbreak of World War II. They had been shipped to multiple countries, including France, the Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, and even China. At Fort Wallam in Belgium, thousands of these exact masks were once stored by the Belgian Civil Defense. However, those were removed and destroyed in 1992, making the discovery of preserved units in an untouched bunker all the more haunting. It's a disturbing reminder. Many of these old masks contain asbestos, a deadly material. Number 2. Secrets beneath Austria. But deep in Austria, near the quiet town of St. Georgen an der Gusen, something buried has come back to light. Using declassified intelligence and radiation scans that showed abnormal levels of radioactivity, filmmaker Andreas Sulzer uncovered what appears to be a forgotten Nazi weapons facility. Hidden beneath layers of earth, concrete, and granite, this underground complex spans an estimated 75 acres. It is believed to be part of the Bergkristall network, once used to build the Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first jet-powered fighter plane. But this section was different. Its existence was never acknowledged by the Allies, despite post-war inspections. It remained untouched for decades. Sulzer's search was sparked by a 1944 intelligence report from the CIA's precursor, detailing a secret weapons project buried in the region. The Nazis had hand-picked prisoners from the nearby Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp, scientists, engineers, and skilled laborers, forcing them to work under brutal conditions. Heinrich Himmler himself visited the site, underscoring its importance. According to Sulzer, this could have been the Third Reich's largest weapons development site, possibly linked to nuclear experimentation. Police halted the excavation due to permitting issues, but several Nazi relics, including SS helmets, have already emerged from the rubble. Number 1. A secret buried beneath Göring's floorboards. After the collapse of Nazi Germany, many believed the Wolf's Lair, Hitler's hidden military fortress in present-day Poland, had been fully uncovered. But recently, a disturbing discovery beneath the former residence of Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring shattered that assumption. 5 human skeletons were unearthed beneath the building's foundation. Each one was missing its hands and feet. Amateur archaeologists working with Fundacja Latebra, a Polish-German historical team authorized to excavate this site, made the find near the northeastern town of Kantarin. For years, they had only uncovered mundane wartime remnants, fragments of dishes, rusted tools, broken glass. But this time, what surfaced was far more chilling and inexplicable. The skeletal remains appear to belong to a single family. Their identities remain unknown. There were no personal belongings, no records, and no signs of formal burial. Only silence. What's more disturbing is the question no one can answer. Did Göring know they were there? The building had been considered thoroughly investigated, but the discovery suggests that its darkest secrets were hidden in plain sight. Covered by moss, brick, and time, the Wolf's Lair still seems to whisper of violence buried just beneath the surface. The war ended. The soldiers disappeared. But some places refused to die. They linger in shadow, silent, decaying, and haunted by the weight of what was built, what was buried, and what should have remained forgotten. Time moved on, but these places stayed behind, whispering secrets to anyone who dares to listen.